Okay, our next artist is Lorenzo. She has a background in landscape design, and she brings her interest in plants and the natural world into her art practice through drawing, collage, and mixed media painting. Her work is occasionally representational, but often is abstract, with any representational imaging serving as only one element in her multi-layered works. So welcome, Lori.
Hello.
There you are. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. So happy to have you here this evening.
Love to be here.
I was excited to see that you have a landscape background. And so tell us a little bit about your interest in plants and, to use your words, the natural world. So.
Okay. Well, I'll start with plants. I really love plants, and I've always been interested in gardening. I think it may have been inspired by my home where I grew up in a beautiful yard that my Spanish grandmother had created, and it was always felt very mysterious and welcoming and a fun place to be. So I've always gardened, and that led into actually me changing careers and studying landscape design. And through that, through those principles of design, I find that I'm still using some of those in the artwork that I do. The principles of repetition, pattern, color, texture, layering are all design principles that I use in my art. And I incorporate plants always in my art. And sometimes purely representational, and then more recently kind of in an abstracted form. But I would say that my art isn't about landscape, but it is informed by landscape. And I might actually start my studio tour in the front yard and go through the drought-tolerant, pollinator-friendly front yard I put in last fall when I took out my lawn.
Oh, wow.
So I thought we would walk, through the yard into the back door, which takes you into my studio.
Your studio is, so obviously your studio is at your home, so that's,
yes,
that'd be great. So, so you've talked a little bit about the media, your various medias that you use. So did I hear you correctly that you actually use plants in?
No, I use images of plants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I misunderstood. Okay, great. Has the COVID-19 affected your artistic process? Or
not really. Early on, I found it very difficult to concentrate and focus on my art, but soon realized, as we knew this was going to last for a long time, that getting involved in my art, which you can lose yourself in, was really one of the best things I could do. So I started really back to a really regular studio practice. And getting involved in this open studio too was a kind of a learning curve, and something that's been very good, because what it's caused me to do is to really catalog all my art, price my art, things like that. So anyway, that's how it's changed.
Yeah.
It kind of upped my game a little bit.
Challenged us all a little bit this year.
Yeah.
Have you been in open studios prior to this year?
No, I actually recently moved to Sacramento. I've lived here for 2.5 years. So I've, been I've gone to open studios, but this is my first participation. I wanted to just kind of introduce myself. That was my goal here, was to kind of introduce myself as an artist in the Sacramento community.
So what brought you to Sacramento?
A lot of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is art, some of your examples of your work behind you?
Yes, yeah. It is. This is actually these are all the newest things that I've been working on.
Could you talk about one of them a little bit? Maybe the one that's highest up is kind of the more kind of nature colors.
Yeah. So this one you're talking about.
Yeah.
This one actually, I just finished this week.
Oh,
And so it incorporates a lot of what my work is. So what this is I've created a background that's abstract in these pieces, kind of a geometrical background. And then it's like, as Kate was talking about cut paper and painted paper, I've moved more from using collage, which I always integrate in my paintings, from found images to images that from my own painted paper or printed paper as my material. So that's evident in this one. Almost all of the pieces are then something that I painted ahead of time and cut up and then use in the painting. One thing though that happened, I call this one Some Like It Hot, because towards the end of working, I had many layers already built up, but it just still felt like it lacked cohesion. And I found these images of ferns, native ferns to the island of Hawaii that only grow in volcanic fields.
oh, wow.
They had a very abstract kind of sculptural quality. And so I put those as like the top layer, and it seemed to kind of bring it all together.
How appropriately titled.
Yeah.
That's great. So, how long have you been an artist?
Well, this time around, I really started getting serious after I retired. So it's really only been 4 years
Wow.
that I've been seriously pursuing it. I had done so as a younger woman, and then had left it. Once when I had a family and I had a challenging career, I just found I couldn't keep it up. So I kind of dropped the actual practice of art out of my life. I've always been very involved in art and, attending galleries and museums and keeping up with contemporary art throughout. And I really think that did me well, because as I began to pick it up again, I just felt like it was pretty easy to get back. I had never painted before, so really using a lot of painting, it was new. I used to do more three-dimensional installation and collage and boxes, kind of, Cornell-esque kind of three-dimensional boxes. So this all flat work is new.
Is new for you then.
Yeah.
That's great. Justina, do we have any questions that might be in the chat?
We have a lot of compliments.
Oh, good.
Which is always good. If anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them up in the chat. I'm just going to read some of these compliments because they're so nice. So cool. Your art is amazing, beautiful, very striking. I personally said I love the bright pops of color next to the neutral tones.
Yeah.
And then when I was looking further, I realized there's a lot of like really interesting juxtapositions between the neutral tones and the pops of like more neon-y color, and then also between geometric shapes and organic shapes. And just like this really intriguing push and pull that you've achieved, that is, when I try to do that, like it's so hard to like get that balance right, where it's like something pleasing to look at, but still like engaging in the way that you've achieved. So.
Well, one thing Kate had mentioned earlier, her use of offcuts, and I use all the offcuts. So for example, if I'm using a stencil that I've created, I might cut out, and the stencils are usually made from plants. But anyway, I'll use the actual image, and then I also use the offcuts. And so what that does is that does create this layering effect that you see positive and negative. You can't tell what's the foreground, what's the background, and that really intrigues me.
Yeah, when you say that, but I'm looking at it now, and you can kind of change what becomes the foreground and what becomes the background as you're looking at it to have a different experience. Someone just asked, do you do paper making, or how do you create the paper that you collage with?
Well, I do it in 2 ways. I print it, and so I'll have printed, or a new technique, and you see it in this one, the newest one. What I've done is I kind of have a little challenge for myself, and I take a piece of paper, and then I I mark it off as a grid with drafting tape. So now I've got like multiple little paintings. I limit my palette. I limit my time to a half hour, and then I just paint rapidly and loosely, which is not how I usually work. And so what I come up with, I have a few samples, is you know, like that's a piece that I would cut out. So that's what I've created. Or another one is like this one here. You know, this is example of part of a printed thing and also something I've painted. So no, I don't create my own paper, but I am painting and printing my own materials.
Very cool. Someone, I don't know how attached your paintings are to the wall, but someone asked if they could see one of them closer.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you
All
could
right, yeah, I'll get one.
bring it to the
I'll get
camera.
little,
Okay,
that's
good idea.
easier one to kind of show. I guess I'll be behind it kind of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
this
oh,
one,
cool.
these are all prints, you know, prints that I created based on a clematis vine, the flowers of clematis. And so then when I talked about the offcuts, you know, this is the positive, I'll say, and then this is incorporating, you know, some of the offcuts for the negatives. And again, it started on a background where I just laid down some geometric color. And the only thing I really decide ahead is what the palette of the background will be. And I try to work then with samples that I've created to fit that. But once I'm starting, it's a very intuitive process, you know, how I move those things around and look for what seems to be a resolved composition. And I take photos often, you know, as I'm moving in towards a resolution, I take a photo and I find that I can see the composition easier once I can look at the photo versus looking at this, you know, surface that's got all these little pieces sitting around. So then if I like it, that's it, and then I glue it down. And then often I go back, like with this one here, I went back in with additional paint, and that's also part of the process at times. Sometimes I'm satisfied with it just as it exists from the collage pieces, but other times if it's not quite resolved, I go back in with more paint.
Lori, you said earlier you limit yourself to a half an hour. Is that kind of
that's only in creating those collage materials.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
All right.
no. This all
I was
takes
gonna
a
say.
long
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you for sharing some more and for giving us that up close look. Lucy says she loves the subtle play between the positive and negative. And Alyssa really loves learning about your process. So thank you so much. Can you tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm on Instagram, and I'm Lori Lorenzo 1925 on Instagram. And actually, I post most of my art there. If people want to reach me, if they have any interest or queries about my art, I would direct you to my email. Again, that's Lori Lorenzo 54@gmail.com.
Okay, awesome. I just put that up in the chat. So if you want to contact Lori, feel free to send her an email or check out her Instagram. And
Lori, thank you, and welcome to Sacramento, and thank you for joining Open Studios.
yes, we're happy
Our
you're
first
here.
online. Thank you so much.